Hey, what's up with it, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now this is going to be kind of a raid boss burst type video going into the first week here of Castle Nathria. For Demonology Warlock specifically, I've been playing around with a bunch of different talent builds and conduits, trying to figure out what's the best for single target, and this is what I've come up with so far. Now this is the build that we basically were running at the end of BFA. This is pretty normal, nothing too crazy or exciting about this build. And the legendary that we're using right now is the Gul'dan legendary. You could try some of the other ones, but this one I think is the best as of right now until we get the Demon Bolt buffing one. I can't remember the name of it. But this is the one that I've been using for this. This is kind of just a nice passive. You don't have to really worry about it too much. Then the conduits we have here is I'm using Ameni, which is the second tree in the Necrolord Covenant, and then we're using Tyrant Soul, which gives us a real nice little extra 15 seconds of bonus damage to our pets and minions and all that when we cast our Tyrant. And then Lead by Example is going to give us an intellect buff after we cast our Decimating Bolt. There's some variations to this you could run. This is just what I've found to be kind of the best setup, the one that I enjoy the most. It's also very, very strong for like mythic content, dungeons, for boss fights. It's just a very good kind of boss build. Now, what we're basically doing and the way that this build is working is that your Tyrant does not snapshot. And what that means is that you have to have active bonuses and buffs and things like that going while your Tyrant is up for him to benefit for it. I can't cast my Tyrant right at the end of a trinket expiring and have him maintain that strength for his entire duration. The buffs have to be up specifically as it relates to Tyrant. As far as I know, this is the only one of our summoned minions that has this type of mechanic. All the other ones can snapshot, meaning if I were to pop my trinket and then cast Dreadstalkers and then the trinket runs out and the Dreadstalkers are still alive, they will still keep attacking as if they have this trinket up, right? Snapshotting is a very normal mechanic. There's lots of videos on snapshotting if you don't understand it. But basically what we're trying to do is buff our Tyrant with all of our minions' health. And then when we cast our Tyrant, we want to pop all of our intellect and bonus, spell power type stuff to really make our Tyrant as strong as possible. I'm getting around 30 to 35 damage from my Tyrant specifically, 30 to 35,000. I don't know if I said 1,000 when I said that. 30 to 35,000 damage from my Tyrant specifically, doing this setup without a flask, without a potion, like an intellect potion, and with no bloodlust, just like normal, like my own gear. I'm at like 181 eye level gear right now, just to give you guys some perspective. And then the only other kind of thing that's worth mentioning here is I'm using this PvP trinket. In a perfect world, this would be a 2-minute cooldown because this setup is basically a 2-minute burst kind of damage profile here, with Grimoire the Felguard being the main variable that we need. So in a perfect world, this would be twice as strong and have twice as long of a cooldown, but beggars can't be choosers. So we're working with what we got here. And then we have Blood Fury, which is a 2-minute intellect cooldown, also lasting 15 seconds. So both of these will last for 15 seconds. Perfectly enough, Tyrant also lasts for 15 seconds. So what we're going to be doing is casting that Tyrant, like I said, with all of our minions up, then popping all of these trinkets, then casting our Decimating Bolt to get that other bonus intellect on top of that, and seeing how much damage we can get off. Now, this to me has been the strongest opener that I've been able to come up with, and it is not what I initially thought was going to be that good, because I thought the snapshotting mechanic was going to be a little bit different. Now, if I was going to basically use an intellect potion during this, the intellect potions, I have it kind of off screen here, but you can see it's a 25-second duration. So I would not be pairing my intellect potion with my 15-second buff. Basically what I would do is I'm going to open with one Shadow Bolt. Then I'm going to pop my intellect potion into Called Dreadstalkers, into Vile Fiend, into Grimoire Felguard. Then we're going to go into our Tyrant. From Tyrant, once this cast completes, I have a macro for my unused trinket and my Blood Fury, and then casting Gul'dan to then dump 3 of the shards because we're going to be at 5 shards. Then I cast my Decimating Bolt. After Decimating Bolt, I would suggest casting Demonic Strength, as this scales also very hard with our active amount of intellect. And then you kind of just do your normal filler stuff between Shadow Bolt and Gul'dan. One thing worth mentioning though is at the end of this, right about 1 second, 2 seconds before Blood Fury and your trinket are going to expire, before your Tyrant expires, your Dreadstalkers is going to come back up. You can snapshot your Dreadstalkers with all of these buffs if you time it right. It's a little bit tricky and it's a little bit tough to kind of get down, and you have to be real fast and be ready, and hopefully you get a Demonic Calling proc so that they're instant cast. But that's just something worth noting, is that's kind of what you're trying to aim for, is basically snapshotting your second call Dreadstalkers, and that's really how you're going to be able to optimize this setup. In a perfect world, if I get a little more comfortable with doing this exact rotation, I would cast my Decimating Bolt here towards the end, right before my Dreadstalkers come up off cooldown, to then time my Dreadstalkers as well with this 7.5 second buff. But it's a little bit tougher to do that. You'd have to basically try and time it 7.5 seconds into your Tyrant, which gets a little tricky. So I'm going to go ahead and show it here. I'm going to have the Trophy will show up right here if you want to re-watch or replay any of this. But here's the rotation. So we're going to open Shadow Bolt, Dreadstalkers, Vile Fiend, Grimoire Felguard into Tyrant, pop our cooldowns, Hand to Gul'dan, Decimating Bolt, Demonic Strength, normal rotation until we get to our Dreadstalkers coming back up, and then cast our Dreadstalkers again, and then normal rotation. Last thing to mention real quick is your Vile Fiend and your Decimating Bolt will be kind of on the same cooldown, and because they're 45 seconds, you can basically use these once before your Tyrant's back up, but you basically want to be playing around these 2-minute windows, so you want to make sure when your Grimoire Felguard's back up, that all of this is back up off cooldown again. So you can use it in between depending on the timing, and you have a little bit of leeway, but you want to ideally always be pairing all of this stuff up together every 2 minutes. So, okay, so let's go. We'll go Shadow Bolt, send our pet in, Dreadstalkers, Vile Fiend, Grimoire Felguard, Tyrant, Trinkets, Decimating Bolt, Demonic Strength, Shadow Bolt, into Hand to Gul'dan, and then we're basically waiting here for our Dreadstalkers to come back up. Gonna build up here, spamming Dreadstalkers, and we clip that right there at the end. I don't know if you're able to see that, but see, we're right around 4K DPS, and we can hold this 4K pretty close here. We're kind of sitting at this high 3s, low 4s for a while. Keep in mind, this is without Bloodlust, this is without a Flask, this is without Intellect Potion, so you should be able to push upwards of about 5K if you get lucky. Now, the other thing to mention here, you see our Tyrant did about 30,000 damage. If you do pre-pot or you have a Intellect Potion running in a Flask, it will significantly increase this damage by a good amount, and if you get lucky, having a couple crits really spikes the damage of Tyrant. If you get no crits, it's going to be pretty noticeable from my experience kind of testing this, but you can see this is the damage profile basically every 2 minutes, and the priority is really buffing the Tyrant because it's so much more damage than every other portion of our setup here. So again, you want to pre-pot that potion on the first Dreadstalkers. I guess it's not really pre-pot. Use that potion on the first Dreadstalkers that you cast, because that 25 seconds should last you through the entirety of Tyrant. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is what I've been able to do so far, is what I've found to be the best build. If you guys have any alternatives or variations to this that you guys have found success with, please leave them down in the comments below. I would love to know if there's some kind of different builds that you guys are still able to pump similar numbers. But I've been having a blast with this one, and it seems to be pretty good so far. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.